I was a youth pastor for several years and have been in ministry actively serving for the past almost 20 years now. And some of the things that I have found to be continuously true across the board, doesn't matter what age you are, is the fact that one of the only person you actually have control over is yourself, right? We know that, right? I'm hoping you know that the only person you actually have control over is yourself. In other words, if I'm discipling you, the only person you have control over to change is you. The only one that can make you change is you. And I've done this with people like you, and I've discipled young people. I've discipled even some older people even my age or older. But I can't change you. I could only give you words that are going to help you move that down in that direction for you to find change. And the reason why I'm talking about change and the reason why I'm talking about discipleship is that when you change, things around you begin to change. And here's what I mean, is that your perspective in how you approach life and how you approach relationships, how you approach your workplace, how you approach ministry changes. Because you realize if you start inside internally, then you start having these dialogues that in turn, if you're looking at the word as you're doing so, looking at the scriptures, you will in turn have mercy on people because you realize how jacked up you are. And you begin to realize how jacked up they are. So here's the thought. Your pastors, your leaders, your bosses, if you're in the workplace, as well-intentioned as they might be, they are not the best leaders, okay? And as amazing as you or other people might want them to be or think they are still not the greatest leaders ever. And they're not meant to be. But the problem is that we put them on this pedestal, we put them in this place that actually doesn't even really belong to them. They have some primary jobs, but we give them more responsibility or more expectations than we should. So, with that being said, what's also true is that some of us, and maybe this is you, maybe you just need to learn how to grow emotionally healthy and stronger in being able to express where you are and where you want your boundaries. Because sometimes we think we've said it to someone, but in the process of saying it, because we're so concerned of how we look and we're so concerned of how they're going to feel about what we're saying, we say it very vaguely. We are not as clear as we actually think we are. And so I think it's important and it's crucial for you to invite someone into your conversation. And what I mean by that is that you invite somebody externally out of the situations or your environment that is neutral, that is not beyond your opinion, but is also healthy, in a healthy place. You bring them into the language you've used and you ask them questions such as, here's what I said to my leader, here's what I said to my boss, here's what I said to my pastor. Was this vague or was this clear? What do you understand is the boundary that I'm asking for based on what I said? How do you think they're going to respond based off what I said? Where can I be more clear? Or where was this harsh? Am I lacking mercy? There's so many questions that type of person, Lord willing, you have that. If not, again, I think also the scriptures is a good place to see that when you compare your words and your behaviors and attitudes towards others. But for the most part, I think most of us can either already have that or can find it. And my encouragement is, if you don't have it, find it around you. Go to another local church, a small group. My suggestion, honestly, is that you would look for a Yoda. And what I mean by that is that you begin to look for this older, wiser person who has gone ahead of you and can see the wider perspective of your life, can see where this could be going. Again, in doing that is because you're just trying to gain some outside neutral perspective of a healthy Christian. You're not trying to put yourself, again, under someone else who may or may not want to control you or control your narrative, etc. And so, again, if you were to start with yourself, because one of the easiest things that I saw, and this goes beyond youth pastoring, this just goes with Christians and human beings in general, the easiest thing that you would want to do is put the blame on someone else. Even in some hard situations, and I'm going to give you a parenthesis here. I am not talking about physical or sexual or even harsh verbal abuse. There are some, obviously, those are some heavy, really intense cases. If you're in that case, you need to run to the police, you need to run to some help, and you need to let somebody know exactly what's going on. What I'm referring to is the positions that we put ourselves in the workplace or in the ministry setting, in serving or in working, and not knowing how to put our boundaries, not knowing where and when to say no, and when and where to say yes. And, because there's so much of our insecurities that come out there. Because if you get asked by a leader or a pastor that you look up to and you admire, what tends to happen all of a sudden is that now, because they are the ones asking you, all sense of discernment and just knowledge in general, or even any sense of wisdom, is out the window, because you're just amazed and you're just caught off guard in a good way. You're feeling it in a good way that the leader or the pastor or the boss noticed me, saw me, they see my potential, and they said this and they said that. But all of a sudden, we just can't even think clearly anymore. And that's why I'm saying that even in good cases, in hard cases, in rough cases where there is tension, an external neutral friend that you can invite in would be great. But then also, with that being said, start with you. Where can you change? Where can you grow? And here's some caveat to that, or some nuance to all this, is that the challenge, especially in Christian settings, doesn't matter if you're a Christian, whether in a workplace or not, in ministry setting, that as soon as we start seeing fruit in one area of our lives, we automatically get distracted, or we begin to think that is a position of where we are across the board in all of ministry. So again, invite some neutral person to speak into this. And I got my son dancing in the background. And begin to ask yourself the hard questions. Begin to start looking inward and take control of the only person you actually have control over, and that's yourself.